Hey everyone, welcome to Lunch and Learn. I'm so excited that you guys are here. If you are new to Spruce Road or to Lunch and Learn, basically it's a weekly hangout with other creatives, kind of walking us behind the scenes of their businesses and teaching us tutorials and tips along the way. Today we have the wonderful Nora Conrad, who I've worked with personally before and can't sing her praises enough. She's going to be walking us through working with a virtual assistant and kind of setting up your own business as a VA, as well as on the other side, hiring a VA and kind of what that looks like. At the end, we will have questions, so feel free to ask those. I see some of you have already asked them below the video. We won't be in the chat, so make sure you post your question there. I'm going to hand it on over to Nora to introduce herself.
Hey guys, there we go. I'm Nora from noraconrad.com. I've worked as a VA, I've had VAs, so I'm really excited to talk about this topic. And we'll just kind of jump in, I guess, whenever you're ready, Jamie.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you have kind of an outline you're going through, so just go ahead and go with that.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of start with like what a VA can actually do for you and your business. I know a lot of you guys were looking through the chat are considering hiring a VA or you're considering being a VA. So there's a couple different types of VAs that you can hire. The first type is someone who works like an hourly rate. They do little admin tasks for you, things like scheduling, bookkeeping, data entry, more of those simple tasks that are just kind of taking up your time. And then there's more specialized VAs. So someone like a social media manager who really just works on a couple key tasks that you really need done. So depending on your business and what you need, you kind of have to figure out which one will work best for you. But you can have them do all kinds of stuff for you. So some of the stuff that I've done or I have had VAs do is scheduling social media, scheduling blog posts, newsletters, really just scheduling any kind of content. Checking social media comments, interacting with your clients and your customers and followers, just kind of doing some of that customer service stuff. They could do things like manage your email, check your inbox, unsubscribing from newsletters, all those tasks that kind of take a little too long. They can do more advanced things like designing graphics for your blog post, designing your email newsletter, even designing your website. It really just depends on what you need, but there's pretty much a VA for any of those tasks that you really don't like doing. Do you have any other things to add, Jamie?
I'll say just when we worked together, you mainly did uploading my content and images to my blog. You translated that to the newsletter. I'm trying to think what else you've done. I mean, you scheduled social media for me. So everyone can be something different, but those are kind of the tasks that I wanted to help with the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really whatever you need is kind of up to your business. Everyone's business is so different that can vary like so wildly, but I mean, there's VAs that do web design, copywriting, social media. If you do videos or podcasts, they can do editing. So it's really just about hiring a VA that really can do what you need them to do. So I think this will kind of answer some of your guys' questions, this next section. Kind of talking about how to prepare your business for hiring a VA. So whether you're considering hiring one or maybe you've already hired one and the training is just taking a while, the best case scenario would be that you can hire someone and they just pick it up really naturally and just flow in right with your style and the way that you speak. But a lot of times people hire VAs when they're starting to feel overwhelmed or when they feel like they're drowning in work. So if you hire them like right in the middle of your busy season, it can be really hard to train someone and train them well while trying to still manage all your own projects. So if you can hire someone before you get to those busy seasons, that's the best thing you can do for your business. Just knowing when you're going to have big projects or if you sell products, knowing when holidays are coming up and when you're going to need someone to really help you take over those tasks. So the sooner you can hire someone, the better. You want to hire them before you really need them, basically. So the first thing that you want to do is just schedule a meeting with them. If they're not local, do it over Skype or even over the phone if you're not comfortable doing video. But just sitting down with them and just letting them kind of see your personality and get to know your business is really the best way for them to start picking up on your style, especially if they're going to help you with content. You really want them to sound like you when they're online. Same if you're going to do any kind of customer service. So this will also be like a good chance for your VA to be able to ask you questions. If they don't know how to do something that you are looking for, that's when you can really discuss that and figure out exactly what you need to train them on. So if you use, like Buffer or CoSchedule and your VA doesn't know how to do that, you both need to know that beforehand so you know how much training you're going to do in that process. And that's also something to consider when you're looking for a VA. Try to find people that are already using the systems that you use. That way it kind of cuts down on your training time. And you're not teaching them how to use Gmail or how to use WordPress. That way they can just kind of jump in and start working on your tasks rather than learning the system. The second thing is to really start writing out your process. So if you're hiring a VA to schedule your blog post, there's a lot more that goes into a blog post than just hitting a schedule button and typing in a date. And you know that, and your VA knows that, but they don't know your exact process. So especially if you haven't hired someone yet, if you're just kind of thinking about hiring a VA, if you can start writing out those processes beforehand, it'll save you a ton of time when you actually have to train someone. So for me, what I like to do is just as I type out a blog post or as I schedule my social media, I just have a notebook next to me and I write down every single little step that I do. That way I can just type it all up and email it to a VA and they can really just follow it step by step. This is also really good if you ever have a VA that quits or has to stop working for you for some reason. You're not going to spend 8 hours training a new person. All you have to do is just send them those same lists of what you do, and it's really easy for them to pick up on that. Let's see, anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I remember working with you on my blog post specifically. You kind of created a template for me to follow, which was really nice to have, like the tweets to share afterwards relating to that blog post, the Instagram text, everything like that. So down to the tags to include in the category. So having things like that detailed really helps streamline the process for both you and the VA. So it's a better relationship, less disorganized.
Yeah. And you can do that as a business owner or as the VA. It doesn't really matter who sets that up, just as long as you're both on the same page with how things are supposed to look. Like the people that I've talked to that have worked with VAs in the past and maybe it didn't work out for some reason, it's always because either they didn't train them well or there was a lack of communication. So like for you, you've been working on your business since you started. So you know exactly how your blog post is supposed to look. You know what fonts you like, what colors you like. A VA is coming in totally new. They might not have even read your blog before. They might know nothing about your business. So you have to keep that in mind when you're training someone. It's not going to be just a couple of days of training. It's going to be a month or 2 month long process of them really learning your style and exactly how you like things. So the more that you can write down and the more you can just get out of the way right when you start, it'll save you a lot of time and it'll save them a lot of stress of trying to learn it all. So it's kind of a two-way street. Let's see. So that kind of brings me to actually finding your VA. A lot of times this is the hardest part of starting to work with someone. Finding someone who will work well with you, with your team, if you have other team members, and finding someone who really understands the industry that you're in is really important. So a lot of times you need to kind of make a list of what you're looking for in a VA. So whether that be what you need them to do, what time zone they need to be in, what your budget is, all those little things are so important, and sometimes it's easy to overlook them if you don't think about them beforehand. A lot of times I hear, like, when someone's looking for a VA, the first place they'll start looking is on websites like Elance or Odesk, other little sites like that. And while that can be a really good resource to get started, a lot of times it's hard to find someone that really fits in with your business on there. And that's only because there's a huge, massive list of people on those sites, and most of them aren't in your industry. The best place to really start looking for a virtual assistant is within your industry. So post something on your Instagram account, post something on your social media saying that you're looking for a VA, or start looking in Facebook groups. I think that's how Jamie and I met. If you just start hanging out where your clients hang out, you're going to find a VA or someone to work with within those niches. So it's really important to find someone that just understands the industry. So if they don't know anything about your business, at least they know about similar businesses. So just start with making that list of like your dream VA, the perfect person that you want to find. And they're not going to meet all of those qualities, whoever it is, but the closer you can get to it, the more perfect they're going to be for your business. And then, let's see. Sorry, I'm like reading off my notes here, you guys. One of the most important things that I found is finding someone in a close time zone to you. A lot of times you can find VAs who are like $5 an hour, $10 an hour, and they might be located in India or France, places in Europe. If you're not in the same time zone as them, you need to consider that. It's going to be really hard to train them. It's going to be hard to meet up for phone calls, Skype sessions, because you're literally across the world from each other. So finding someone you don't have to find someone like in your hometown, but finding someone within a couple of hours of you will be a lot easier to train them and communicate with them. Am I missing anything there, Jamie?
I don't think so. I'm looking at kind of your notes, and the next topic is like warning signs and when to move on with a virtual assistant. Did you want to jump into that?
Yeah, sure. So it's hard when you're trying to find someone online because you're going off what they're telling you. So, if they say that they know MailChimp inside and out, you have to take them at their word. You don't really have a way of knowing that. But there are some warning signs that you can kind of start to notice. So if you're not sure about them, we'll kind of give you some tips. So the first thing I recommend doing is meeting with someone over video. And the main reason for that is because you can ask them questions and they have to answer on the spot. It's not like an email where they have time to do research or think it out. If they don't know the answer, you'll know. So that's kind of important when you're asking them about different systems. If you say, I work a lot in MailChimp, do you know how to use MailChimp? And they kind of look confused. They probably don't work in MailChimp. So just looking at signs like that is really the best way to know. But also during your search, really pay attention to how the person communicates with you. If they take 3-5 days to answer your email, when they're working for you, they probably aren't going to be very responsive to your emails. Or if they can't figure out how to get on Skype and they're trying to get connected and they just cannot figure it out, they probably aren't going to magically know when you need to start meeting with them face to face. So pay attention to how they communicate with you. If they're really good at getting back to you quickly, they're probably going to work that way too. And a good rule of thumb for that is that if the person only wants to email you or text you, they don't want to talk on the phone, they don't want to meet on video, it's a warning sign. They're either not who they say they are, or they're just really shy and they aren't going to be very open with you if they have issues with stuff. So either way, you should probably just meet with them face to face in some form.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Like your virtual assistant, no matter what they do, needs to be organized, right? That's that's like the main priority for me anyways, is that they're organized with my business. And if they're texting you or, doing things like that, it's a warning sign for sure. So establishing like good communication up front. Like I think you and I have a Slack channel. So we established that from the beginning. This is how we're going to communicate. Like that's key, I feel like.
Yeah, and just really picking like one form of communication and sticking to it is better too. So if you're not sure, you have to go back and check on something, you're not checking your phone and email and like 40 other platforms, that it's going to be in that one spot. So that's pretty important too. Let's see. I guess the other warning sign is if they are so perfect and they like fit, every single thing you were looking for, it's kind of a warning sign. If they seem too good to be true, they probably are. So if you find someone who is willing to work for $5 an hour and work 40 hours a week for you and do a huge list of tasks, that's not realistic. Either they are seriously undercharging and they should probably know better, or they are lying about something and they're not actually going to be very good at their job. So it's just a good idea to, you want to stay budget friendly, but you also get what you pay for. So a $5 an hour VA isn't going to be as good at the tasks you give them as someone who's working for $40 an hour. So I understand like trying to fit within your budget, but that's just where you have to look at, the tasks that you're handing them. So if you really need help with social media, invest in a social media manager rather than someone who can just come in for $5 an hour and schedule stuff for you, because they're not going to be as good at their job because they don't know as much about it. Oh, and then the other thing is to really look at their social media. If your VA says that they're great at web design, but their website looks like a 12-year-old made it, you probably need to question that. Same with social media. If they're coming on to schedule social media for you and help you get more followers, but they only have 12 followers on Twitter and they post every day, that's a warning sign too. So really just look and make sure that what they're telling you matches up with what you're seeing. You want to look for that consistency. I think that's all the warning signs I have. Can you think of anything else, Jamie?
Let's see here. I'm going to do, okay, here we go. I was going to say that a lot of times, since there might be a warning sign there, you could always test out a package. So I think with you and I, we just did a few hours to start with, make sure we get the process right and everything is smooth from there. And I think that's really smart, rather than full out saying, I'm going to hire you for 6 months and 40 hours a week, do X amount of tasks for me. That's a big commitment up front. So maybe you could negotiate with the VA, like a starting package to kind of trial run it. Make sure that there really aren't any warning signs after that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just a good idea to keep in mind too. If you're interested in being a VA, offer something that's just like a 5-hour package. That way they know that they can kind of test the waters, see if they like you, see if you are trainable, and then you can start on a larger package. And if for some reason the VA is totally against that and they want you to buy, 40 hours up front, that's kind of a warning sign too. So it's just good to keep all that in mind. If you have a gut feeling about it and you're just not sure, trust your gut and just kind of follow that. That's the best advice I can give for that.
All right. Did you have anything else? I think, you did have another section on here on rewarding and teamwork. So do you want to jump into that?
Yeah. So this is just pretty quick. Once you hire a VA, you need to keep in mind that they're a team member. They're someone that's helping you run their business. I've worked as a VA for a couple of years now, and there were people who I loved working with and people who made it an absolute nightmare. So as important as it is for the VA to keep in communication with you, you need to communicate with them too. If you're starting some massive project or if you're going out of town, you need to make sure that they know all of that. So just see them as a team member. They're a part of your business and you need to make sure that you're communicating that business news to them. And then the other thing is that obviously this is totally optional, but it definitely just helps like morale and helps your business. Just little bonuses, gifts, or just like an email every once in a while thanking your VA for the work they're doing goes a really long way with keeping someone on for a long time. I know with a lot of the people I worked with over the holidays, over Christmas, we sent each other just like little gift cards or just handwritten thank you notes. And just showing that you appreciate them is huge for your business. So just keep that in mind that when you're hiring someone, you're hiring a team member and they're on board and they're going to help you out, but you need to make sure that you continue to communicate with them and you continue to show them that you appreciate them.
Yeah, I love that. It goes with any business, just customer service is really nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to include, yeah. Okay, well, I think that wraps up kind of your presentation part of it. Did you have anything else to add before moving on to questions?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
There's a lot of questions, so.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into some more.
Yeah.
I have the first question. Here's from Lex saying, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to be great at managing a VA. What do you like your clients to hand off to you? How do you like to handle communication? I'm at a point that I desperately need a VA, but feel like I don't have time to manage my own business, let alone figure out what/how to hand things off. So that's kind of a lot, but I think we'll tackle this one part at a time. So what do you like your clients to hand off to you, Nora?
I mean, I would start with the thing that's really eating up most of your time. If you are considering a VA, just start with like making a list of everything you do. So writing content, scheduling social media, answering emails, and then go through that list and figure out what you don't need to do. If you are, an infopreneur, or if you're a web designer, you need to be the one creating your graphics. So that's not something that you should hand off to someone. But you don't necessarily need to be scheduling your social media. So look at what jobs you can delegate, and then figure out which one is eating up the most of your time and start there. That way you're saving yourself time, but you can start to kind of ease into it yourself and ease the VA into it.
Okay, so how do you handle communication? I think we touched on that a little bit, but you can go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so just choosing like one form of communication. So if you're in your email every single day, use email. We chose to do a Slack channel only because we both get a lot of emails every day and we didn't want to lose each other's emails within that. So with Slack, you can have it on your phone, it's on your computer, you can set up notifications, and it's just easy because everything stays within one spot. So just pick one spot and stick to it, basically.
Oops, forgot to say start answering. Here we go. Okay, this is from Crystal. She's asking, definitely interested in what tasks a VA can help with in case I get too many clients. So Crystal, if you're in here, will you kind of tell us what you do? Because I'm not really sure what type of clients you have, but that can kind of go into like what tasks does a VA do?
Yeah, so again, just kind of make a list of like what you do now and what you can delegate. If you're starting to get more and more clients, one of the biggest things you can do is have a virtual assistant to help you with your leads. So whether that be just kind of answering emails, scheduling meetings for you, sending people questionnaires, it kind of depends on your business. But having someone help you just get some more information on those leads will really help you kind of manage that flow, I guess. But really, any kind of admin work that you don't need to do, you can find a VA to do. So it's just figuring out what you want to delegate first.
I could see too, as far as on clients, what to do, possibly following up with them on deadlines that they need to meet, or sending them invoices, things like that maybe you personally don't need to be involved in, but it might help to have an external person say, lay down the law and be like, you owe us something now, or, make sure you're available for feedback at this time. So that could help as a VA doing those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really good too. If you like get nervous kind of chasing people down, it's a good idea to look for someone who is really outgoing, because they'd probably be better at that than you. And you can even hire a VA to like help you set up systems. That's what I started doing when I did VA work. I help people set up Calendly and 17 Hats and kind of get those systems ready, so that way when you do start getting that inflow of clients or projects or whatever it is, you already have systems there ready to help you grow. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, Kaylee, where are the best places to find a VA that you can trust?
The best place to start, I mean, if you have any kind of social media accounts, I would say just post a quick image on Instagram, post something on your Facebook page, and say that you're hiring a VA, and have like a little contact form set up or something. That way, where you're starting your search is with people who already are familiar with your business. They know who you are. They hopefully know a little bit about your industry, and that way you kind of have a starting point. The next best place I would say is Facebook groups. Jamie and I are both in the Savvy Business Owners Facebook group, and there's constantly people in there, saying that they need a web designer, they need a VA, and you have like 40 people responding to each thread. So you can just kind of go through. Again, that just kind of ties back to looking for those warning signs. If you don't think you can trust them, move on and find someone else. So.
Yeah, I think that's helpful for Facebook groups, is rather than saying like, hey, I need a VA, send me your information. It's nice to say, does anyone have a recommendation for a VA? Because people will gladly pop in and they love to reference people that they trust. So they'll tag that person. I've just seen that in specifically that group, which is the Savvy Business Owner group. So that's really helpful. But I think you're really onto something with posting it on your social media, because those are people who already follow you and are aware of your business. So that could be a good starting point too.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully you have like some business friends. So just start there. Ask your friends who they recommend. Most people have like a VA, even if you don't know it, they're usually like behind the scenes. So you'll get a lot of recommendations just from that.
Okay, Shay is asking, what resources would you recommend for those wanting to get into doing VA services? So that's kind of the other side of it.
Yeah, so really how I started was just working for local businesses. So I would go into like a little boutique or a little restaurant or something and ask if they needed help with like their online presence, starting just by posting to social media for them or taking photos of their stuff so they could use it online. If you want like a full-on like guide, there's a lot of different e-courses. I've seen a few of them now where you can literally train to be a virtual assistant. But really, I think it's a little unnecessary. I think if you just start asking people around you what they need help with, you can just start small. Start offering your services at $10 or $15 an hour. And as you learn more and as you become an expert in more, you can start to raise those prices and, start like a full-on service for people.
Yeah, I would say, Shay, one is to be really specific about what you offer. So if you're just getting started, like have a certain slant to what your VA services are all about. Like, are they about scheduling social media, saving people time, or taking care of blog posts for you, website? I think Nora touched on that a little bit. It's kind of getting into a niche. So if you're just getting started, maybe test out the waters with like a certain niche and then grow from there. Nora, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and if you have, done work in a certain industry already, start there. If you know about music or if you play an instrument, start in the music industry and find people who have online businesses relating to music and just send them an email and just say, you're starting a virtual assistant business. You want to know if they need any help. And if they say, no, I don't, you don't have to email them again. You just kind of have to put yourself out there. And there's people who will need a virtual assistant for, who have smaller budgets and they aren't too worried about kind of training someone more in depth. So just like for those kinds of people, and eventually you'll find them. It's just about putting yourself out there.
Okay, Bern has a question, and you touched on this a little bit, but how much should I be paying a VA?
Yeah, and that kind of varies. Like I said, you can find someone who lives in India who will work for a few bucks an hour, and you can find someone to manage your social media for $100 an hour. So it really just kind of depends what tasks you're having them do. I would say for like small online businesses similar to kind of ours, the average is somewhere between $15 and $40 an hour. I know that's like a pretty big spread, but that's because it really varies on how much experience they have. And again, you kind of get what you pay for. So if you are paying someone $10 an hour, there's nothing wrong with that, but just keep in mind you're probably going to have to train them a little more, and they might not be as experienced as someone who wants $40 an hour. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule, but I would aim for $20 an hour if you're just starting out and just kind of negotiate with the virtual assistant.
Okay, I like this question. Do you have a contract between you and the VA, and what do you include? And the answer is yes, right? We had a contract, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually have a contract for every set of hours. So if Jamie buys 10 hours from me, when I'm done working that 10 hours, we have a new contract for X amount of hours. So you definitely need a contract. It doesn't matter if they're just working for you for one project or for an entire year. Just having a contract in place kind of protects both of you. So if anything ever went wrong, you can go back to that. I wish I had a template or something to show you, but basically you just want to outline really important stuff, saying that you won't steal their content or use it anywhere else, kind of stating your work hours. So for me, I say that I don't work Saturdays or Sundays, even though sometimes I will do work then. That way it just kind of establishes when you work, and your clients will know when they should be contacting you. Include all of the prices for everything and the amount of hours that you'll work. That's kind of why I offer hourly packages like that, because it's just really straightforward and simple to put in there. You should also include stuff like if your client fires you, or if they quit, or if they drop out of the contract, if you owe them money or if they owe you money, and how all of that works. So it'll kind of vary. If you really need help with that, there's a ton of services online to help you write contracts, and you might want to do a full-on lawyer who specializes in writing those. But if you're just starting small, just try to include as much as you can. You want to kind of overcompensate and just ask people around you what they included in their contracts. I know when I first got started, one of my friends actually sent me her entire contract so I could get an idea of what I should include. So just kind of ask around, I would say.
Okay, Cynthia just commented she's thinking more from the employer side. So I'll switch to me. I didn't have a contract with Nora from my side, so that's interesting to think about it from that perspective. But I think the main thing is that we had a contract with Nora, and we have a mutual respect with one another, so it wasn't really an issue for us. But I guess from an employer side, you could have things on there about meeting deadlines and communication, things like that. But I would think one contract would suffice, right? If Nora is violating her own contract, then it's a violation of our agreement. So it seems unnecessary to have two contracts, in my opinion. But you could always revise. So if I had something specific that I wanted from the employer side to protect me, then I could tell Nora, hey, would you mind adding, this to the contract? Or I wrote up one that we could both sign instead. Have you had anything come up like that with your business, Nora?
Yeah, I mean, when I send everyone their contracts, the first, like within the email, I just say, if you want me to add anything or change anything, we can discuss it. Just let me know. Because everyone is different. Everyone wants different things in there. Um, so I think that's also good too. If you're an employer hiring a VA, if they have a contract, really read through it and make sure that, you know, they're going to be honest and they're not going to steal your work or anything like that. You can Google online like some basic contracts just to get an idea of what you should include. Unfortunately, my contract has kind of been like a work in progress. So as I have issues or as I've run into problems with past clients, I've added little things in there to protect me and to protect my employers. So if I ever had someone say that they wanted to add a piece in there, if I thought it was a good idea too, I would just leave it in there. So both as a VA and as the manager of the VA, just really work together and make sure you have that communication where you're comfortable saying that something needs to change.
Yeah, I think everyone's contract should be kind of a work in progress. So I don't think there's any shame in saying that, because you do as a business run into things that need to be added later that you wouldn't have otherwise anticipated, especially whenever you first get started. So I think that's really smart. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Cynthia. Okay, this is from Carla. She says, I'm so excited that you're doing Lunch and Learn with Nora taking the lead. I'd really like to know how to work with virtual assistant. And she sent that yesterday. So we kind of dove into that a little bit, but did you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think we kind of hopefully answered it all. And if you have another question, Carla, go ahead and put it in there. We'll get to it.
Okay, there's this one from, let's see, Margie. And I'm going to just kind of touch on this. Actually, let me present. Okay, it says, I have a VA page listing out all my services I offer, but it looks plain. How can I make the page stand out? This is something I can't really get into in just like a 30-second answer. So that's a whole other workshop. But I would say, and Nora and I talked about this a little bit before the workshop, is to work with the designer and work with the copywriter, because as a VA, like you'll need to get help from other people in order to make the page stand out. That might not be in your wheelhouse, and that's okay. So I would recommend working with other people, because I don't have a recommendation on the spot without seeing your site, especially. So I know that's kind of a vague answer, but hopefully it points you in the right direction. Nora, did you have anything just to touch on that?
Yeah, I'd have to kind of agree with you. Just asking, like, you could just ask people in your community what they think of it, if they would hire you. It's kind of hard to know without looking at your page. So
that's true. Actually, I do remember you saying you did that, or I remember seeing that in Facebook groups. You'd upload your new services page and see if that made sense, just not even how it stands out, but just how the things are packaged together, your services. And that's really smart to test that out.
Yeah, and I even had, like, my fiance and my sisters know nothing about my business. Like, that's just totally out of their realm. But I had them read through it to see if it made sense to someone who, you know, doesn't really understand the industry language, I guess. So just having outside eyes on it really helps.
Okay, Rachel's asking, how safe/comfortable is it to give your VA or anyone else you hire for a web design your passwords to help do certain tasks for you? Is there a safe way to do that?
That's a great question. So it's really up to how comfortable you are. For me personally, like when I share my passwords with anyone, my passwords are crazy. I use LastPass, which is like a little add-on to your Google Chrome or whatever browser. And it just generates passwords for you. So they're all just a bunch of letters and numbers. Even I don't remember them. And LastPass allows you to share the passwords within the application. So that's a really good option for you. Now I'd just say, you know, maybe work with the VA for a little while before you just give them their passwords. If they want all your passwords up front, that's a warning sign. But just change your passwords, you know, every few months, just to make sure that if you're not working with someone anymore, they don't have access to your stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not as secure as I probably should be, but I feel like I found Nora who I really trust. And so I gave her my passwords, but I created them specifically for the ones that she has access to. So I could change at any moment. And, it's pretty easy. So you could always create like a temporary password and test it out and then switch it later. Yeah, I don't know. That helps.
Yeah. And I mean, with stuff like, if you're on WordPress, you can add them as like a user. If you have Buffer or something like that, there's like team options. So if you're really kind of wary of that, there are options with every tool that you use to just kind of add them as a user rather than giving them your password. But yeah, that's why it's important to just find someone that you really like and you can trust and know that they can handle your passwords and not try to steal all your stuff. And also, it's good to have something like that in your contract. If they ever stop working with you, say that you have to delete all the passwords or something like that. That way, if you ever run into that problem, you have a legal document that you could take them to court with if it ever got like that crazy. Just kind of protecting yourself with the contract, I guess.
Okay, this one is the same question. So I'm going to delete that about, oops, make sure you delete, okay, about passwords again. How do a quick day in the life of a VA in regards, or can you do a quick day in the life of a VA in regards to managing multiple clients, organizing your day, etc.? Wow, I struggled asking that. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, it's going to be kind of different for everyone because I have a day job and I go to school. So my schedule is very like condensed. I work for maybe 3 or 4 hours after work every day. But really, the first thing I do in the morning is check all of my emails and messages. So that way I know kind of like what's going on, what someone needs from me. And then I usually just make kind of a task list for myself, either writing it down in a notebook or putting it into Evernote. Just that way I know that I get everything kind of checked off my list. I do have multiple clients, so usually I'll just do like whatever has the closest due date first. So if someone needs their blog post scheduled by that next morning, I make sure I get that done that day. But yeah, it's just kind of making sure that you write everything down, I guess, and then assign due dates. Even if there are no technical due dates, just assign them to yourself. So that way you know you're getting things done like in a timely manner.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to answer. Here's the last question. If you guys have any others, feel free to add them while we're answering this one. But what program do you use for a shared calendar with your VA for scheduling? That's from Colleen.
You can use Google Calendars. Jamie and I don't really use one because we don't really like schedule things out too crazy. But Google Calendars is a really good option because you can hide the calendar when you're viewing everything. So if you don't need to see it, but both of you can add tasks to that. I'm trying to think. I don't really know like any other service that you would use. We really just use Slack with each other.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas?
I just know for my clients, so not a virtual assistant, but I use Basecamp for my personal client projects, and it has a nice calendar feature on there where you can assign to-dos, things like that. So that's an option for you. Or if you already have something that you're using in your business, like I know a lot of people use Asana, Evernote, things like that, you can just try to integrate them into that. But I found with Nora, it was just kind of like, what do you use? And I'll come on board with your system because I know she already does some other virtual assistant stuff. So it's really kind of a balance of whatever you want to do. But there's a lot of free tools out there for scheduling. But yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah, just use what you already use. So if you're already in Google Calendars, just use Google Calendars. Whatever you use, you want to make sure that's something that you're looking at every day. So for us, we look at Slack every day. So we just kind of say like, hey, this is due at this point in time. Uh-oh, my cat is about to like pop into frame. You can like sense when I'm doing a video.
Hilarious. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions. Did you have anything else to wrap up before we conclude today's workshop?
I don't think so. I mean, I just say if you're hiring a virtual assistant, just stick to your guts. If you want to be a virtual assistant, just be as detailed as you can and make sure that you are really attentive, especially if you're just starting out, to really get those like good recommendations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's good. Well, I hope this workshop was helpful for everyone. I know I really enjoyed having a virtual assistant, and if you have a business, I highly recommend just finding those even menial tasks that you don't like to do, writing them down, as Nora said, and finding someone who can kind of fill in the gaps for you so that you can get to work on moving your business forward. And that also helps them move their business forward. So it's win-win. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I'd love to see how you're kind of using virtual assistants or how you want to use them in the future. Join us next week for our next Lunch and Learn. I think it's Lauren Hooker from Ellen Company is joining us. So it'll be a fun one for sure. Can't wait to see you guys there, and hope you have a good rest of your day. You want to say bye, Nora?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute my mic. Yeah, thanks you guys for coming. I mean, I'll kind of hang out in the chat box. I see you guys are still kind of asking questions, so I'll hang out in the comments. There's a pretty big lag on here, so if you're dying to ask a question, just let us know.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nora, and everyone else who joined in.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.